Hi, it's the end of January. First month of 2025 has already gone. So it is time to look at how many books did I read? 1, 2, 3. I read another 6 books at the end of the month. So I think my total for the month is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 this month, 12 in January. It's not too bad. Not too bad. I think normally I sort of tend to read sort of 14, 15, but I seem to have slowed a little bit this month. We'll see. Must be old age. So, January part 2, what did I read? I started off with one that comes out on the 6th of February, and it's Old Soul by Susan Barker. And it's a sort of horror. Jake meets a wealthy Japanese lady when he misses his flight, and the two get talking, and they discover that her twin brother and his childhood friend, they both died in very mysterious circumstances, well, odd circumstances. But prior to their deaths, both had met a German photographer. So Jake decides to follow this trail of this German photographer and sort of try and find out, and he comes across other deaths where a visit from this German photographer, they've all met this German photographer before they've died, other odd sort of deaths. So you've got sort of little scenarios of little interviews with Jake and these people telling about the meetings with this German photographer. And in the present time, you've got this German photographer with her. Another person. So you've got the present day. And you also see this German photographer's... I keep calling her a German photographer. She's not a German photographer. She's just a random woman who takes photographs. But she is almost subservient to a tyrant and that is the why she does what she does. I've not explained that very well, have I? But it's a very good book. Then the next one was Han Kang's new one that again comes out on the 6th of February. And it's We Do Not Part. This is beautifully moving. It's in two parts almost. We start off, the author herself says she's got a horizontal journey and a vertical journey. And you've got Kienga, a writer, who dreams of black forests, and with her friend, Innocent, they plan to have this sort of art installation of these black trees against the snowy landscape. But it never gets done. And then Innocent severs her fingers and wants Kienga to go to Jeju to look after her bird. And so the first part is Kienga's journey to Jeju, and it's snow and it's dark and you've a heavy snowstorm, and the writing is sublime. And then she gets to Jeju, and the second part the author described as a vertical path down to a dark period, and you have memories of a massacre in 1948, and it's surreal and it's dreamlike in this part. You've got testimonies of the survivors. It's quite harrowing at times as well. Very, very dark. And again, you've got darkness and snow. But love. Because the remembering is an act of love. And it's super, super read. Then another arc that comes out on the 6th of February. And it's Hope Street by Mike Gale. Now, I love Mike Gale's writing for sort of nice, heartwarming books. They make you feel all warm and cosy. And you've got Connor, who's a 20-something, and he's vulnerable, learning difficulties. He lives alone in Hope Street. He's the last person in Hope Street because all the other houses in Hope Street have been bought up by the council because they want to demolish it and put up new residences. And Leela, a journalist, she's sent to interview Connor to find out the story of why he's never moved. And she finds out that he's not moved because his mum went out 3 years previous and never returned. And so he's staying there because if he moves, his mum won't know where he is. So that is the story. And she gets caught up in this story. And she promises to find his mother. And you've got Marcus, his best friend from school, who always looks after him. You've got Bernie, who's Connor's mum. You see her point of view at times. You've got Alan, a guy he works with, who almost looks after him. And then you've got Adele, who was the bully, who made his life at school misery, and now goes to work where he does. And it's a super story. Really is. It's a really heartwarming Mike Gale story, and his stories are always heartwarming. I love to pick his up. Then I read Waterston's book of 2024, Butter by Asako Yuzuki. And I went into this one thinking I was getting some sort of thriller, but it was totally different to what I was expecting. Rika is a journalist who goes to interview Manako Kaji, a serial killer who killed 3 men. And it takes a long time before Rika gets an interview because Kaji just says, no. And she will not be interviewed by anybody. In particular, she will not be interviewed by a female journalist. But then Rika finds a way in by talking about food. She asks for a recipe, and that is her way in. And the descriptions of food, because Kaji talks about food the whole time. She sends Rika on expeditions, go to this restaurant and try this, go to this restaurant and try this, and when you cook, do this. And the descriptions of food are just luscious. And you come away feeling so hungry. You put the book down and you rush to the kitchen because they are just so mouth-watering. And so this is the way that Rika gets to talk to Kaji, and eventually she finds out about Kaji's motivations. She finds out about Kaji's life, different things. And this is based on a true story, by the way. It's based, in fact, because there is a woman on death row at the moment who is a serial killer, rather. So it's sort of based on a true story, or inspired by a true story. And this real life person, people sort of say, well, why were men taken with her? Why did men go for her? Because she's overweight. What on earth would they pick her? And Rika finds that Kaji has had the same sort of negativity. Why on earth would they go towards her? Because this woman, she's not attractive, she's overweight. But you've got Kaji's point of view, and then you've got the view that, this body image view that, all Japanese women should be beautifully thin. And so Kaji is sort of spoken about in the press as being overweight. But what Rika finds is that she is totally happy with herself. She sees her role as being a person to feed, to look after men. Men should be looked after. And, you enjoy life. This is what Kaji's principle is almost. And following, and Rika finds that she puts on weight because she's trying all these foods, and she keeps getting negative comments, even from her boyfriend. You're letting yourself go. So it's almost a sort of, on the one hand, you've got the Japanese culture saying they should be thin, but then on the other hand, you've got this thing that, this gender role that a woman should not be working. They should be looking after the man. They should be feeding the man. Rika's best friend, she gave up her work as soon as she got married. It wasn't what I was expecting. And if I'd have read it last year, all the books I read last year when I was looking for my book of the year, it wouldn't have been my book of the year. It was interesting seeing the different views about culture. Then I read the children's category winner for the Nero Prize, and this was 12 by Liz Hyder, which is folklore, magic, nature. At the winter solstice, Libby and her sister, Libby sneaks out to the White Tower following a prophecy, and her sister Kit goes with her, and Libby vanishes. And then when she gets back, Kit finds that Libby has been erased. Her mother has has no memory of Libby at all. As far as her mother's concerned, she's got one daughter, Kit. Libby never existed. And she joins forces with Story, who's a young lad. And he remembers Libby. And so the two of them try and find out what's happening. And you find that time is splintered and they keep dropping back into the deep past. And it's a tale of friendship and trust. The transitions from the real world to the past, they're fantastical, they're brilliant. And the descriptions of the world before progress are amazing. The nature that is there before man comes with his tractors and his not combine harvesters, but all the technology, industrial, whatever, before we decided to wipe out nature. You've got all these descriptions of nature, and lovely story. And then the final one I read was the non-fiction category winner for the Nero Prize, Morris and Marilyn, an extraordinary true story of love, shipwreck and survival, and is by Sophie Elmhurst. And it's the story of Morris and Marilyn Bailey, who in the 1970s sold everything to sail to New Zealand, but they were shipwrecked. A whale hit their boat, and they ended up having to sort of get what they could off the boat onto a life raft. And they were drifting in the Pacific for 117 days. And it's their story. The story, they wrote diaries while on this life raft. It's the story of their survival. It's in three parts, so the before they start the voyage, the voyage and the shipwreck and the survival bit, and then what happened when they were rescued. I like the bit in the middle, not so bothered about the bits on either side. But the story of their survival is something. I don't think I would have done it. I think I'd never have survived 117 days. I'm sure I wouldn't. But yeah, a really good non-fiction. I don't really do non-fiction, but it's for non-fiction it was okay. My book of the month. The first half of the month, it was Sweat by Emma Healy, but that has been knocked off its perch by Han Kang. Han Kang is my book of the month. We Do Not Part. Beautiful writing, darkness, snow, super. So my book of the month, my book of January, is I'm just looking for it. We Do Not Part by Han Kang. And we'll see what February brings. I've got a very busy February. I think I've got one more arc to read by the 6th of February, and then I've got 8 to read before the 13th. So I've got 9 arcs to read in 2 weeks. No, I'll never do it. I might get 2 or 3 read, but all these arcs will be read after publication date, so I am sorry. You shouldn't bring them all out on the same day. So, I will leave you now. I will go and open a book. So happy reading. Take care.